Welcome back to another episode of Practice Underwater. This is a George interview. It's been a long time since there's been a George interview on Practice Underwater, and that definitely shows in part one. How's it going today, Matt?
This is good. I'm good. I mean, this is an excellent two-part episode. This is just like practice underwater at its finest. Mindset, uh, action items, transforming the practice. Someone who's already a listener. These are a good one. These are really good.
Awesome. Yeah, it's funny. I forgot. It's what is it? Real doc, fake name. I forgot that at the
Yeah, your
beginning.
tagline, man. How could you forget that?
It had been that long. I think it's been like 2 or 3 months since I've done one of these.
It's crazy. These are like implant. I have to use words dentists know, right? So okay,
Okay.
this is like if you don't do an implant for 2 months, you get rusty at doing implants.
It's like the supplies rep way of selling everything. Make it a clinical analogy.
No, the one we talked about the other week of the it's like you would refer to an endodontist as a specialist. You
Oh
wouldn't
yeah.
refer to a non-dental CPA.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, this is a good one. And, this is interesting because there's a very distinct moment in this interview where it shifts. And at first you'll hear it. And I'm kind of looking for like, why is Obi on this show?
Mhm.
And then you'll quickly see why, or not quickly, like 30 something minutes and you'll see. But anyway, we'll jump right to it. I think we'll joke about it in the next couple episodes, but usually when I do the interview, it's a little bit longer. So this will be a longer episode today.
I would like to do a deep dive into that and see if it's actually true because I really don't think it is.
All right. Well, in a couple weeks when Matt's interviewing, we'll talk about it.
Okay, great.
Welcome back to another episode of Practice Underwater. I'm here today with our what's the way I say it? It's been so long since I've done one of these, so it's fake name, real doc, Obi-Wan Kenobi is the name we're going with today. How's it going today, Obi?
Oh, living the dream.
Living the dream. So you're a longtime listener from what I understand.
Yeah, I I listened to you on the way home even. I feel kind of like cannibalism to listen to you and then be interviewed by you immediately.
Oh, it's funny. I've called people before as they're listening, like that more times than I can count. Someone picks up the phone. Hey, I was just listening to you. I'm like, oh, cool. Okay. And the thing
How's
is, in
that
real
being
life, I
like
talk at 1x, not 1.5x or whatever they listen at. So
how is
it's a
that
whole
being like
different
a
experience.
dental celebrity?
It's not. It's not a dental. I block out the fact that exists. So so it's actually been a while since I've actually done a Practice Underwater interview. So this is the first one I've done in I would say at least 2 months. So it almost felt weird. I forgot the way I said real doc, fake name, or fake name, real doc. I forgot how I say it, but I'm excited for the interview today. So Obi, I'm going to call you Obi for short. Full name Obi-Wan Kenobi, but we're going to go with Obi to keep it somewhat palatable throughout the whole episode. So tell us a little bit about. I know you and I have talked a lot pre-ownership, and I'm not totally well versed on your story, and I know you sent a long email. But for our audience, kind of talk about your journey and what led you to reaching out today.
Was that a long email? I just answered the questions. I tried to be as short as I could be.
I honestly didn't read it. I think I scrolled through it, and I try not to actually prepare too much for these because I want to come in the same way our audience does, with just kind of come and ask questions. I had pulled up your PBN, I've glanced at it, but that's about all we've done. So,
All right.
it wasn't long at all.
So I did a GPR after school. I applied to endo 6 years in a row. So I applied in school, I applied in my residency, I applied after that and after that. And so this whole time I had kind of been, it's part of
Wow.
it.
Wait. So you graduated over 6 years ago?
No, but you can apply in your third year of dental school. And then I applied when I was in my residency. And then I applied this year for next year. So it adds up to 6 times.
And they've said no to you every single time?
And I've interviewed every year. I guess I'm a spoiler. I guess I'm a bad interview, so get ready.
Yeah, get ready, guys. No one in Endo wants to touch Obi-Wan Kenobi right now. Wow, that is incredible. I don't think I've ever heard of that.
And I mean, I interviewed and I honestly thought I did okay. I don't know. I'm really academic. I really cared about that stuff, but now I'm in it for I'm ready to go full business.
Well, there you go. Okay. So how long ago did you buy a practice?
18 months.
Okay. And did you apply like in the last 18 months after buying a practice? Did you apply to
Yeah.
Endo?
Oh yeah.
And you just sell your practice to go do Endo?
Yeah, I was ready. I could either sell it or I could put an associate in there and give
So
them
you really want to be an endodontist?
not anymore. I'm ready. I'm over it.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I have a hard time understanding why anybody would want to be a specialist. So I can't imagine somebody trying that hard to be an endodontist. Yeah, that seems so weird to me. But anyway, go ahead and I didn't mean to interrupt. That was just interesting. Go back to the beginning of you graduated from dental school how long ago?
I was a 2016 student.
Okay, so 4 years, 4.5 years ago, you
Yeah, and
graduated
then
from dental school.
I did a VA GPR. That was awesome. I mean, placed like 100 implants, did endo with specialist every Wednesday, all that stuff that's typical of a VA GPR. I was looking at practices, and I actually used your spreadsheet to look at practices while I was in residency.
And I actually remember you and I communicated about a few practices, in I think it was like the southeastern part of the country. We won't say what state, but back when you were looking. So is that where you ended up buying?
It is. So I wound up finding a really good associateship. And I mean, it was really good. I got like, I wrangled like 40% collections was like
Whoa.
my rate for coming right out of residency. And
Wow.
he had everything, CBCT, all this cool stuff that you would want, but it just was in the middle of nowhere and it wasn't going to work out. And I was commuting an hour and a half because I had moved in with my now wife. We were dating at the time. I don't know. I just had to tumble into a practice quickly, and I just found the first one that was viable.
Wow. So you actually were commuting, was it 45 minutes each way or was it an hour and a half each way?
Hour and a half each way. And they were
Oh my.
they were 10-hour days.
Wow. That is insane. And so like how much were you making a year doing that?
No. It was like the worst associateship from a pay perspective you can imagine. But what I had was really good freedom. Like,
Wait, didn't you say you're making 40% of collections?
yeah, but they couldn't fill the chair. And they were kind of anti-advertising. They weren't willing to give up their patients. Like, it just didn't work out from a financial standpoint.
Got it. Okay. So you did that for how long?
I was there for probably a year and a half. So I was like a year and a half there, and now a year and a half in my own.
Okay. And you bought a practice, closer to where you live, I'm assuming?
Yeah, and it's a great area. I live in a downtown area, and my practice happens to be in the really affluent area that wasn't like planned. I just met the guy. We liked each other. We shook hands, and I went for it.
So tell me a lot about the practice you bought. How many ops does it have?
It has 4. It technically had 4. One of them was like a little closet. He had a hygienist in there. I got rid of that really quick. I work out of one op currently. I'm just about to finish remodels on a second op that's actually a real op. So I've got 1.5 hygienists.
Okay, wait. So he had a hygienist in a closet?
Yeah. It was really bad. It was really bad. Like, it was a very small room. Like, it was not an op you should put anyone in.
Okay. And so then you got rid of the closet and now you have 3 operatories.
Yes. Because I moved the lab into the closet and I turned the lab into a real op, or I'm in the process of that. I work out of one room and each of my hygienists gets their own room.
Okay. But will you only have 3 ops long term?
No, so this will be a 4th.
Okay, the lab will be converted. So then you'll have a second restorative chair.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So what was the practice doing historically, collections wise, when you bought it?
700,000, but I needed to do a deeper dive into the codes because it turns out everything was an MODBL, and I didn't know that when I got in there. So my collections dropped really quick when I got in because I wasn't doing everything as an MODBL.
Okay, let me look here. You bought the practice in May of 19?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so in 18, it looks like they did 695, and then, it dropped to 613 in 2019. And now this year, you're kind of trending. Wow, you've had a good year, haven't you?
Hey, I started listening to the podcast.
I'll take credit for it.
No, but I'm serious. Like, I would consider myself like a disciple of your teachings, and what you guys were saying, it really resonated with me. I was ready to commit to the practice because I wasn't committed. It was a job where no one could tell me what to do. Mm-hmm. So I was ready to commit. I found some stuff that I thought I liked, your podcast being one of it. And I was like, yeah, these things are true. I need to be diagnosing this stuff. Yeah, this is true. I need to be doing this. And I just started doing it.
So where do you feel the shift was from where you were at, pre podcast, rejuvenation, and then post? Like, what changed in your practice?
I felt like I was going to be there long term, or at least I wanted to achieve what I could achieve here. You kind of said something in one of your things that really stuck with me. It was, your practice has a ceiling. Everyone's does. And I want to get to that ceiling as quick as possible, because why do I want to spend 10 years at that ceiling if I could spend 15 at it?
Totally. That's awesome. Wow, what a compliment. Thanks. So taking a look here, I'm looking through your PBN right now, and you reached out and kind of tell our audience, it seems like right now you kind of have a stable. So I guess I'd put you at like 700-ish roughly is kind of like your pace right now. So seems like you bought it.
Year? Or...
No, this year you're not going to finish at that with COVID, but I'm saying that, probably next year you'll finish 700-ish.
You think? I think I'm hitting 70,000 every month nowadays.
So you think you'll be 800-ish next year?
For sure. No, I think I'm going to be 1 million next year. Well, okay, right. I'm aiming for 1 million. I'm trying to increase my stuff, and having an extra room that's completing this month should help.
No, I totally am with you. I guess for me, I'm just trying to see like rough size of your practice right now. I think we probably put it at 800-ish with your current pace. I mean, I see last 3 months we have 80, 67, 75 in collections. So, I mean, I'm sure you will in 2021, but I'm sort of just trying to give a rough estimate of the size of your practice for our audience. We have roughly, 1,200-ish patients. And I guess the thing I'm trying to figure out is, what led to you reaching out, and what were you hoping to get out of the interview today?
I'm trying to be genuinely open, honest, and vulnerable, because I want to learn what my weakness is, because I'm probably suffer from overconfidence, and I'm ready to, and I trust your opinion. So if you're like, hey man, this is a big problem, I would probably listen better than when my buddy texts me and is like, hey, this is a problem.
Well, cool. So what do you think, I guess, so what are your goals with your practice? Let's start there. What is it that you want to accomplish in your office?
Oh, so I was really proud of this practice because I'll get the real estate that was part of the original deal, and I only occupy half of it. So I'm planning to build out the other half, pull in some other docs.
Ding, ding,
and
ding,
right
ding,
now,
ding.
I have renters on the other side. I'm actually buying the building this month, and it's kind of cool because when I buy the building, I'll make $20,000 extra a year.
Nice.
Isn't that cool?
I love real estate. The real estate part of dentistry is really interesting. And
it is.
Good for you, man. So if I'm understanding you correctly, what you're saying is right now you have a solo practice that occupies 3 chairs in a closet, soon to be 4 ops. And then you want to have eventually I'm hearing the words group practice in your larger facility once you kick out the tenant and take it over. Is that what I'm hearing?
For sure. So we take up 2,000 square feet of a 4,000 square foot building. There's a beautiful neighborhood behind the practice. I envision myself walking to work. And I kind of want to be down to,
how many days?
2.
2. Nice. And at this point, there is no judgment on not enough days. I think at this point we've sort of laughed at that philosophy that like you can own your practice without working a lot of days, so any amount is on the table and you want 2 days. I like it. So, and how many days do you work right now?
I'm at 4.
Okay, 4 days.
We are fee for service, by the way. Not that it really affects anything.
That affects everything. All right. So do you want to remain fee for service?
I think I've been worried that I have to switch to like accepting some insurances for associates.
Okay.
Or not worried. I've been wondering if that's something I'll eventually have to do, like bring in some plans.
Interesting. Okay. Right. So we got that to talk about. How many hygienists do you have? How many days?
I have 2. One is in 4 days a week, and the other is in, I think, 2.5 days a week.
Okay.
And
so
the schedule is so light lately. but I assume that's for everyone.
So how many front desks do you have?
I have a true office administrator, so she has an MBA. She does like everything for me. I don't do anything.
Does she see patients?
My front desk?
Like, does she check patients in and out?
No, that's my other front desk. So that's more my receptionist.
Okay, so what does your true office administrator do?
She'll renew my licenses. She does submit insurances, but she hosts team meetings. She keeps me on point for like setting up checklists for what our goals are for 2021. She's a true integrator, if you'll buy that term.
Cool. Hiring, firing?
Yeah.
Nice. So Obi, I apologize, but this is a subject that our coaches have really asked me to talk about on air. And so far in this interview, we have gone a little bit quick in pace. So I have a few minutes here to talk about this. And a true administrator is a term reserved for the office manager that does not do any day-to-day function in dental practice.
I accept your definition.
So if that person were to go on a 2-week vacation, no day-to-day functions would not be met. Collections, patient check in and out, appointments made, treatment presented, anything that has to do with the patient flow of the day-to-day operations of a practice. I think the term, and this is where the coaches, they're all former office managers. And that's something we hire on. And I thought that meant, Suzanne knew what that meant, our director of coaching, but I did not know what an office manager actually was. An office manager, a lot of times, is a treatment coordinator who gets some administrative duties, but is very much still interacting with patients on a day-to-day basis.
So may I add that I'm very eager to take those responsibilities away from her, but we've got to grow to do it. And I plan for her to grow with the practice into that role.
Totally. No, that's what I did. So my office manager, I bought the practice with 2 front office, and she was called an office manager, but I knew at the time she wasn't. I didn't fall into the trap. I still called her an office manager, but then we hired a 3rd front office, and then she only did insurance and her stuff. And then now we have an insurance coordinator. Now she's a true, if you want to call practice administrator, whatever it is. But I think until you have 4 front office, it's hard to actually have that office manager be a full-time front office person.
Right.
Or full-time.
I have a fake office administrator.
Yeah, there you go. You have a fake office administrator. That's what I was trying to get
at. Thank
you. So, but it seems like she's a solid player. So she's someone you inherited?
No.
Oh, so you hired this position.
Yeah, I did have using the terminology you outlaid, I had a true office administrator in my last office where I was an associate, and I saw her value, and I knew I had to have someone like that. Because the docs there didn't do anything. And I like that. And I want to do nothing.
I love that, man. There's been a few times now, I think it's before we go into talking about other stuff, you seem super solid on a few things, right? Mindset wise, desiring to, you're clear on what you want. And I think you're clear on a path to get there. You're clear on the fact of getting someone, an integrator, to help you on the day-to-day. I mean, so far, I can tell you listen, and take notes because, I'm talking to somebody that I feel knows what they're doing. That's awesome. I love that. Way to go.
I'm ready for you to tell me the other thing where I'm sucking so I can work on that.
So I want to quickly, though, before we get into that, I want to talk about, we'll get into the metrics in part 2. And yes, there's stuff as you want to grow your practice and patient flow. I think we're pretty clear on, your track to grow, everything that you need to do there. Especially if we want to go through. So this is essentially a solo to group transition. If we're diagnosing what we're going to do with you as a client, it's a solo to group transition. And so it's a very straightforward way to do that. And we'll outline all of that in part 2. But for the rest of part 1, I really want to talk about, I think the other parts of the part 1s that we like to talk about, which is leadership, your kind of soft skills, goals, mindsets, any of those things that we have to still address before the next part 2 is pretty tactical. So I guess staff turnover wise, since you bought your practice 18 months ago, do you have your current team?
I lost 50% of them. Well, really they needed to go. I had a front desk who couldn't use a computer. I had to computerize the whole office. It was all paper charts. And I had a hygienist that thought she was queen of the world.
Okay, and then your current staff, how long have you had them?
The entire time. I mean, I haven't lost anyone that I've hired.
There you go. Okay, cool. Before we get back to the episode, I wanted to take a minute and thank Practice by Numbers. Without their help and allowing us to set up the shared practices dashboard, a lot of what we do on Practice Underwater wouldn't be possible. I want to take a minute and highlight a clip from the episode that we did with Rohit, where we highlighted some of the metrics that really matter most.
One of my pet peeves that I want to share is that when you talk to some of the providers that are really successful out there, that have been in practice for 20, 30 years, and they roll your eyes when you say you're going to manage by numbers and this and that, they have successful practices, they have built them, and they have something right they have done. And when they tell you the only thing you need to look at is your bank account, it's absolutely incorrect. Okay? It pisses me off every time I look at that and I see that comment on the Facebook group, because success is not happenstance. It just doesn't happen.
It's kind of baffling. It's an everyday kind of thing where you're striving to improve, you're striving to tighten your systems, you're striving to know your practice better, and just to get in that kind of complacent mode is easy. I can see how it happens, because you're so in the wheel and you get overwhelmed with things that this isn't something you want to think about a lot of times. But it really is so important that people focus on this kind of thing.
I hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you guys are interested in trying out Practice by Numbers and looking at your practice through the Shared Practices dashboard, and there are many other dashboards, you can go to practicebynumbers.com and set up a free trial. And I think it's honestly totally fine to lose people. I haven't, and I actually take a lot of pride in the fact that I haven't, but I also think that it would have been okay if I had. I think maybe, to assimilate to a new owner and a new philosophy, I think it's pretty important that you get people on board with what you're trying to do.
I'm really kumbaya. I mean, I'm probably too soft, but there was no hope for her. I mean, she had been basically running the office. Like no one liked her.
Hygienist?
Yeah. I can't actually say the word, but the previous doc, I told him that she quit, and he was like, yeah, she was always a...
Oh my gosh. Okay.
That was like his description of her.
Wow. I don't even want off air. I'm excited to hear that word. I want to hear which one he used, but oh man. Okay. Wow. Okay. That's funny. Okay, but I guess you're making this too easy on me, man, Obi. So what do you got for me other than wanting a plan to get to where you want to go? Is there anything else that any leadership challenges, any mindset issues you think you have? I mean, I noticed your new patient flow is pretty low. What have you done there?
Okay, so we have a bullet pointed list that we're going through. Number one, I'm finishing the remodel. Then we're going to bring in a professional photographer to do videos and photo, update the website. Then we can do SEO. Then we'll really upgrade our pay-per-click and use those photos for mailings and stuff and advertising.
Okay.
So I'm kind of working through the strategy. I'm only at $1,000 pay-per-click right now, but I feel like I don't have anywhere great to take them. The website is a WordPress that I made.
Yeah, no, that's not solid.
The practice didn't have Wi-Fi when I got there. It takes a lot longer than I ever imagined to start changing. Just now in the past couple of months, have I been able to change things that I thought I was going to be changing from day one.
Like what?
Like a CPCT.
Oh, you just got it a month ago?
Well, it's getting installed now. But then adding new stuff, changing equipment, things like that. I mean, I had to add computers to every op. They had a little laptop that they would roll between each room, all 4 of the rooms. And so I was in the middle of a root canal, and the hygienist would come take the laptop from me, and I'm trying to take x-rays while doing a root canal.
Wow.
So upgrading infrastructure took a lot longer than I expected.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that I don't think you understand exactly what it entails. But then when things are in place, it's really, really nice. So would you say how long, your first full year of ownership, you were kind of lackadaisical, just kind of going through the motions?
Sure. It was just a job, so no one had the right to tell me what to do.
And then when did you make that shift exactly? Like 6 months ago?
Yeah, right after COVID. I think a lot of people had a breath of fresh air, right? And they got
Mhm.
to see how things worked out. I'm in the military part-time, like I'm in the Guard.
Okay.
And I got deployed for COVID, and I don't know. I was out there and there were a bunch of people telling me what to do, and I was like, man, having people tell you what to do when they don't know what they're talking about is terrible. I guess I should really lean into this place where I control everything. And I did.
And so now I think did you put down endo?
Oh, yeah, I'm good. The only way no, I'm good.
Okay.
Because if I leave dentistry, I'm leaving dentistry, not for endo. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I think in 5 or 10 years I could see myself selling the practice and just walking away from this profession. But not
Why?
because I don't love it. I love dentistry. Just because I like trying new things.
Is there anything about your job that you don't like?
No, I mean the same stuff as everyone. Patients can be a chore. Getting that distal of like a number 18 sucks. Just stuff. But I don't know. We have total control over our environment. Change what you don't like.
Okay.
I mean, I hate my building. It's really, really old. I don't know that this is a real estate podcast, but man, my AC froze over 3 times today. The previous dentist is still the landlord. He won't fix it. That stuff is hard. And I'm assuming it's going to cost me a lot of money to like totally remodel this. And I'm nervous about remodeling the space I'm in while I'm there. And I don't know if you know anything about that.
Yeah, I've done that. It's actually not that bad. You just get them to come in over the weekend, and you always get them to leave it in a spot where you can continue on Monday. And if you need to take off time, I mean, I'm assuming you take vacation like for holidays and stuff, like for Christmas. You just do a lot of work over those periods. But actually, it wasn't that bad.
Okay. I feel
But-
like I can't even find anyone who will do repairs. Like getting someone in who will give me a realistic quote or do any of this work is so hard right now.
Yeah, I mean, like we have a list of all of our, I guess this is something a decent we could talk about. We have a list of approved people. We have an approved handyman guy, an approved dental equipment repair guy. We have an approved all of these things. Anytime something happens, my team knows to call one of the people on that list and they'll get it done. It just takes a while to develop the people that you work with. A couple times getting chipped off and stuff like that, and then you'll find the people that are solid. That would be worth getting, in my opinion. Especially long term. I do want to talk about your case acceptance, though. So diagnostically, how confident do you feel with your ability to present treatment and sort of, handle that side of the practice?
So I was looking at those numbers in practice by numbers, and I don't know how that's determined. Do they have to sign it for it to assume that they've accepted?
Correct.
Okay, because I just started.
It's not signing. It's scheduling something.
Okay, because I feel like it's higher than that. Because I just feel like it's higher than that. I don't know. I think I have good case acceptance. What are you seeing?
So
I thought I saw it at like 30% on some of these.
yeah, no, I mean, so the great thing about practice by numbers is that it doesn't lie. You do. So like, I mean, my experience of you in general has been slightly overconfident. Whether it be the size of your practice at the beginning of the interview or, every step along the way. I think you tend to just a little bit more than it actually is. So no, I think 70% is probably accurate. 71%. I mean, but I think the other thing that I'm looking at is your treatment plan size. So, you're a fee for service practice. I mean, your fees, what is your fee for like a crown?
1,200.
1,200. And then, throw build up on top of that, or is that with build up?
Build up is 300.
So 1,500 for build up and crown. And then you're fully fee for service. I'm assuming you accept people's insurance.
Yeah.
I guess that's the one thing I'm looking at is your treatment plan size is kind of average. Your diagnosing rate is average. Your treatment acceptance is a little below average, but your fees are high. So you're being compared to everyone that takes insurance and they're outperforming you. So I think that would be one area that I would look at. And I'm not saying I would look at and change. I think it's just knowing that about yourself. I think you and I are very similar as dentists, actually. I think I don't know. Do you feel more me than Matt? I mean, you've heard us both. Who do you kind of relate to more as a dentist?
Yeah, I like to think I would be in the middle there. But that probably means that, I'm indecisive, and maybe that's two personalities that
are very different. Yeah. But I think there's that person that really, really, you did a residency, you do complex. Do you refer out anything?
Yeah, I refer out wisdom teeth, children that are getting braces, really complex implants. I'm not going to do a lateral sinus window.
Okay. So you're pretty much, you got Matt's skill set clinically. Okay. And then, but like treatment planning wise, I'm looking at this and I feel like you're moderate to conservative. Does that feel accurate to you? Or do you feel like that's your patient base?
I felt more conservative until a couple months ago when I just started. I took that list idea that you had and I just started writing down what I didn't diagnose to the patient's face. Mm-hmm. And I just started telling them. And you're right. I'm amazed at how many people just say yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, you've got the K under 6 crowns. I know it's kind of tough for me to tell you this at once, but that's what I see. Okay.
Yeah. This idea that patients leave practices because they got diagnosed a lot is yeah.
Well, I did lose like 200 patients in the first year, which I don't know if that's average or not.
Why did you lose them?
I assume that there's 30% loss whenever a new doc comes in. People who had moved away, people who didn't want to give the new guy a chance. And then I did lose some because I went out of network with everyone.
Oh, so this was an insurance practice that you purchased?
Yeah.
Oh, and you just went out of network?
No problem. High risk, low reward.
Wow. Okay. All right, then I'm going to do a part 2 spoiler alert here. As we're talking about insurance, the one, you got a huge backdoor. That is the one thing I saw in your numbers. I'm like, wow, this guy is wide open. And, that insurance thing might have something to do with it. So talk about your desire to be fee-for-service versus wanting to be in network.
Well, what really happened is I tumbled into the practice really quick because I had this long commute, and then I wasn't registered with any of the insurance companies. Mm-hmm. So I was just submitting out of network, and then I just stayed that way. I eventually wrote like a letter to the patient saying, hey, we've decided to go out of network. That doesn't mean that your cleanings will cost any money, blah, blah, blah. Usually it's covered 100%, stuff like that.
Okay. And so the patients that have come in here, into your practice, how have they remarked on this whole thing?
I would say most don't. I think my front has a great script, and they really are good at getting patients through that. Like out of network doesn't mean we don't take your insurance.
And then in terms of long-term with insurance, we kind of talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but do you see yourself staying in that fee-for-service model? Do you do anything special?
Do I do anything special?
Like customer service-wise, like anything, like, is it like if I walk into this practice, am I going to feel like, wow, this is unlike any dental office I've ever been to?
I think so. I think we have a great customer experience. And I mean that. Like, I really think that we take time with people. Like, I'm never in a rush. I don't double book. I'm there for them emotionally.
So I've been told that when I have a bias, I am supposed to state it. I have a bias. I do not love, I don't know. I think the out of network thing, I'm not a big fan. Look, you're a confident guy, so I'll kind of hit you straight with it. You got 27 Google reviews. Like you're not crushing it. You've owned this practice for 18 months. So
I will tell you, it's kind of funny because I got you right now, like where I feel like I'm at this turning point. Because I got swell last Thursday and I got 2 reviews that day.
Yeah, it works. but
getting those things implemented takes, like, you need a server. Like, I didn't have a server. Like, getting all this stuff implemented isn't, I don't know. Like maybe some people get lucky and dark horses in there like the next day, installing all these computers. But
Okay. Yeah, and look, I'll give you grace on the fact that you don't have that stuff in place. But I think we're looking at your practice objectively, right? So we have a practice that doesn't take anyone's insurance, that doesn't have the best reputation online. I'm just trying to figure out, why are we staying, like, what do we feel we do so great that we want to be fee for service? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I guess I feel like I have a high skill set. I do a lot more than most general dentists, and I can do it like in a good environment where I literally am using the best materials. I'm using the best local lab. I mean, I do the work that I feel really ethically good about. I use rubber dams in all my operative. Like the quality of my work, I feel, is really high because I try hard. And I've always been told that like good work in dentistry is an ethical choice, not a skill choice.
Mm-hmm.
So I put in the ethics.
And your lab fee for a zirconia is?
I think 150.
Okay. I mean, that's solid. So where do you want to go with the network out of network thing? Do you want to stay out of network?
I don't really have a preference. I get gun shy around contracts.
What's that about?
Fear of commitment. Talking to the guy who would have sold a practice 1 year into owning it.
There's something for you around the maybe our audience has picked up on it, but there is the, I see it in you because I am the same way. I hate being told what to do. Like, there is nothing I hate more on earth than someone telling me what to do. Like, pushes all my buttons in all kinds of ways. I can tell that you and I have that in common. Am I right?
Yeah. It's more of a weakness really than anything. I need to be more, I mean, even just having to talk to someone like you that I trust to give me bad feedback, like anyone should be able to give me bad feedback. So yeah, I get too defensive on that stuff.
And I think, for you, there's something you make it about. So, I mean, I make it mean stuff about me, and that's why I'm resistant to it. And I found that being able to separate, like, it's not bad feedback. It's just facts. You were the one that put the word bad in front of it. It's just factual. So it's, don't take it, I like, if this is just us talking, like there's, you're doing a great job. Like, you're killing it. I love your attitude, your mindset, like all of that stuff is there. Like, you're not doing a bad job in any way. But we still have to be able to talk about these things. So, we're going to.
I just want to throw out that, for the most part, the confidence is fake, like it is for most people. And I work hard to try and make it real. Like, I'm on here because I'm worried about stuff. Right?
What are you worried about?
Well, I'm interested now in your opinion on why fee for service isn't working for me or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I'm worried about because I'm fine. Like, financially, we do okay. Paying for everything. Just having fun, doing my thing. Worried is the wrong word. I don't know.
I think it's the right word. What do you got for me?
I don't know. I just want you to know that the confidence is the wrong thing. I'm projecting it, but that's because I'm insecure.
We also have that in common. That was a big part of my early ownership. I did a webinar recently talking about how 2019 for me was getting kicked in the behind. Censored this show. This is a censored show. And, but the whole time during 2019, during the roughest moments of my ownership, I was saying, yep, this is X, Y, and Z is wrong. A, B, and C will fix it. I'm positive. Internally, I'm freaking out. I have no clue. And I get that because I think for me, my thing was I didn't want to admit that, right? Failure. I mean, I don't know if failure is the right word, but I think for me it was harder because I was thought of like, right, you said dental celebrity at the beginning of this episode, kind of flippantly or jokingly, or maybe not, but like that, I think for me, it added this extra pressure on myself as in early ownership, right? I didn't feel like I was allowed to be human. And that's what it came from for me. But, I think everyone, there's stuff that we feel like we have to be perfect, or we can't be weak or vulnerable, or and you're a confident guy, and I imagine that people perceive you that way, and they're like, oh yeah, Obi, that guy, like, he's always in control. He never admits that, like, he doesn't make mistakes, and I think it can sometimes be hard to admit that you might have.
I hear you.
So that I feel like, for me, like, I want that guy in the interview today.
I'm trying.
There's a reason this is anonymous, right? And it's so that we can be vulnerable and honest. And so I appreciate you bringing that with me today. Not every Practice Underwater guest does that, but that's where the growth happens, is when you're willing to put down your guard and get vulnerable and be uncomfortable. So thank you, Obi. Super appreciate that.
Thanks, man.
I'm going to give you my thoughts on the insurance thing, and then you can sort of take it or leave it. Right now, I think you're in a really good spot because you haven't signed up for any plans, and none of your patients expect that of you. So I think at this point, there is some damage that has already been done. It's been 18 months. So any patient, like, this is the thing that freaks me out about, and I say this, and look, this is not to tell you did something wrong or to make you feel bad. I'm simply educating our audience and helping you in the process. Whenever a practice is bought, it's important that the insurance involvement stays the same. That we say that a lot, and the reason is patients are, like, the first thing they think is, they're looking for one reason to leave, and they're all looking for one reason to stay. They're super easily swayed one way or the other. You give them a first good experience, you make their first good appointment, boom, you've got them for as long as you want. The other way around, you give them one reason to go, and they will, because now they're already going to have a new dentist. It's just a little bit more paperwork. And so a lot of credentialing strategies take a long period of time, and we typically don't like those, because early in ownership, we want people to be credentialed as soon as possible so that they can retain that first appointment of the patient base. When I looked at your practice, I think one thing I did see was a very large percentage of overdue recare. And your patient base is one that is very up to date. From what I see on your practice by numbers, you don't get a lot of emergencies that are not looking for comprehensive care. The patients you look for are healthy mouths, they take good care of their teeth, and they want a dentist. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and that has been a really hard switch for me, because I came from the VA and I've always practiced rural. So I'm really good at extractions and implants and root canals and stuff same day. And out in I had these mechanics, and my assistant had known them since high school, and they'd come in, they'd say, I broke a tooth, and say, you need a root canal. And they'd look at Karen, she'd nod, and then that was it. They'd just be like, you take cash? And we're like, yeah, we take cash. And now I'm in this really affluent area, which I thought would be great. And it's literally a true story. Someone with a $10 million house, and they're like, can I get a senior discount? Like, no, it was a filling. Stop. What?
Oh man. Yeah. It's, so I had the same experience. I worked in dental school where it's like every crown underneath it was decay. And like, I'm so used to like these large treatment plans of like, I think if I ever had a treatment plan in dental school, that was like any patient that I saw that had like only one crown to do, it'd be like really unusual. And in private practice, you walk in and 60% of your patients you don't diagnose anything on. It's very different. Yeah, very different. We practice in very similar areas. I looked at where your practice is located. But anyway, yeah, I mean, that is a shift. But I think the thing is long term, right? If we want to keep if we want to have an associate in your practice has to be built to withstand associate turnover. That's part of the model. There have been 7 dentists in my practice in the last 2.5 years. So,
okay, I maybe want to edit that and say, in my associate model, I'd like long-term associates. There has to be a model where it's possible, like where I can give someone a job that is so good, so lucrative, so comfortable for them. They're just not really interested in going anywhere.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I feel I do that. A lot of that turnover was sellers, ex-wife. Those are 3 of the 7 dentists. One of them is me, so 4, and I've had 1 associate turnover. So I don't know. But nonetheless, I feel like the model has to be built like inherently, right? You can try your best to hedge your bets and do everything you can to retain associates long term, but without using partnership, there is no way to ensure that they stay. And the solution to that isn't, in my mind, to give them partnership just to keep them there. You can if they're very productive and they're like a once in a very rare associate, it can be beneficial. But you really need to build the practice to have really solid retention so that you're retaining patients well, and then you're kind of built to withstand doctor turnover. And that's where I like dental insurance, because you have something tying you. Every patient of yours, and I think that's part of the reason why your treatment acceptance might be a little lower too, is they just kind of know that it's more expensive at your office. And that's something that we went through with our out-of-network patients. And there's all the verbiage and everything you can do, but at the end of the day, you are swimming upstream. Like, totally. And if you had told me your vision was to do great dentistry and have great relationships with your patients and keep your practice for ops long term, then I wouldn't be telling you to sign up with any insurance plans. I would just tell you to keep doing it the way you're doing it. But if you want to really take that next step and blow down the door and make an 8-10 operatory practice, then yeah, I think insurance would be very beneficial for you for a lot of reasons. Thoughts on that?
I accept that. That makes a lot of sense. It's something I would have to pull the trigger on in a couple years, because I have like a 3-year landmark in mind where I'm going to decide to either stay in the space with minimal renovations or like blow out the building and do a total renovation and make it fit for multiple docs.
Mm-hmm. Why 3 years?
Why 3 years? Because I want to reach my own personal 1.2, 1 point, whatever goal first, just for funsies.
Ooh. This is juicy. All right. So we're going to pick this up in part 2. We're going to talk about his plans to grow, and we're going to talk about how that solo to group transition would look. I really enjoyed this one. So let's go to part 2. We'll keep having fun. We'll see you guys next week on Practice Underwater. All right, Matt. So a lot to talk about in this one. What did you think first? I want to start with that moment I kind of talked about in the intro. At the beginning of this interview, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, and you can kind of hear, I don't know if you could hear it as I'm interviewing, but I'm thinking to myself, like, why is this guy on? He's very clearly knowing what he's doing. Like, where's the Practice Underwater vibes that we normally get? And then he broke.
I mean, we had Mr. Right Answer, right?
Yeah.
Albert, I think his name was.
Albert, what's his name?
This is Mr. Overconfidence. And for those of you so George and I do life coaching, and this is kind of how a lot of the calls will go. You like, if you come in with like, oh, I got it all figured out and I got a plan for this and I'm good, the coach will continually prod you to see like, where you full of S. And you did that here and you got in the break, and then you could finally have a real conversation. So masterfully done on your part. It's
funny. So as I'm doing the interview, I'm self-conscious because I'm like, I'm checking the boxes. I'm like, I'm looking in his leadership. I'm trying to explore his staff turnover. I'm looking in his, I'm trying to see where is the hole. And it took me a while. And then I don't know, but I could just audibly sense the change. I don't know if you could as a listener, but like just the shift in, all right, now we get the real interview. We did a 30-minute little walk and song and dance, but now we get the real thing.
Yeah, because like he reached out to us. He wants assistance with his practice. He just has to let us give it, like have the real conversation, find out the real source of what's going on. And it was all an act. And we all do this, myself included. Like,
oh yeah, we both do. Yeah. And that's the thing, like, I tried telling him, like, look, we have the same stuff.
Right. But like the whole point, as you said, like this is anonymous for a reason. So we can have these conversations. We can talk real details while remaining anonymous. And you can say the things that you think and don't say to your team or your wife or whoever.
Yeah. And I love that happened and on air, especially. I think that was so awesome. So Matt, what thoughts did you have tactically? Practice management type stuff.
I have a couple areas I want to get into because I think they're useful. One of which I don't think a lot of people know about this: the office manager who doesn't do any day-to-day functions. And for someone listening, like, okay, when am I ready for someone like that? And how does structuring someone in that position work?
Yeah, so I think I kind of walked him through it there, but our coaching department, they have these terms that they use. So like your one front desk, right, there's no delineated functions. And then as you become 2 front desks, then you have a treatment coordinator and a scheduling coordinator. And then it's that third front desk that you call someone an office manager. But really, they're half office manager, half insurance coordinator. And then you still have a scheduling coordinator and treatment coordinator. That's like a 3-person front office. And then it's that fourth addition to the front office where then you fully replace the insurance coordination role.
So even in a solo office, say, it would be the fourth, not the third?
It is the fourth front desk. I guess the way that we do it,
right,
where that office manager then fully becomes, and it's the whole point is you have an office manager. So I can attest to this now because I now have, so we have 5 front office now. We have 2 treatment coordinators, a scheduling coordinator, insurance coordinator, and office manager. And I can truly say that my office manager does, like, so if she's gone for 2 weeks, patients get checked in, they get checked out, they're presented treatment, claims get submitted, claims get followed up on. Like, nothing about the day-to-day operations of the business or the patient experience or the collections, anything that needs to happen up front goes through her anymore. All it is staff management, billable, paying your bills, ownership functions, right?
So do you think this is ever needed if the dentist is full-time in the practice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
So when is someone, quote unquote, ready for a position like this?
Yeah, so I think the first time you're ready for a position like this is when you have your third front desk. So when you go from 2 front desk to 3 front desk, that's when you start needing someone to help you with HR. So you have employee handbook enforcement, you have employees start going to this person with, issues, then you start letting go. And then as your team gets bigger, now that management function becomes more and more. I mean, my office manager, we got 17 people. Like, there's someone in our office at all times complaining about something. Like, that's a full-time job, but if you have like 12, like, it's like a half-time job and the other half is insurance coordination.
Yeah, but then I lose the joke of, okay, go complain to HR when there's no HR. Classic dental gag, right? I would lose that.
No, it's funny though, because it gives you an out with your team. It really does. Because my team asked me something, well, talk to my office manager, Cindy, and then we'll check the employee handbook and we'll see what it says. So I'm not making, but I know exactly what it says in the employee handbook. It says no, but I'll just let them go figure that out from the place where they should ask the question in the first place.
Interesting. Yeah. That adds a lot to an office and takes so much off your plate. So
yeah,
it's a cool position.
Then anytime someone hiring, firing, I think a lot of times dentists don't grow fast enough because they don't hire fast enough. But when you have someone whose full-time job is to do those types of things, it really makes sense.
Yeah. Another big thing I wanted to touch on was the out-of-network thing. So
what did you think about that?
Weird move. It almost seemed like it was the annoyance of actually credentialing that he didn't want to do. He would rather not have to go through all of that discomfort and paperwork and stuff. It's very George-like, honestly, in this way. So he was just like, all right, let me just send him a letter because I don't want to deal with any of that stuff. And it seemed like it had a pretty big impact on his practice as far as patients.
It had a pretty big impact on his practice. If I'm listening to this as a pre-owner, so there are 2 schools of thought with insurance credentialing, and I was kind of trying to allude to it. But there's one, do it as fast as possible, and there's one, do it with the highest fees as possible. I feel like this is a cautionary tale showing you the reason why, we've always stood on the fence of doing it as fast as possible. Early in ownership.
Getting the credentialing done. I don't know if I necessarily agree there. I think it's decently, not easy, but it's not too difficult to navigate that period where you're not credentialed to when you are credentialed, thus ensuring you get higher fees from the jump.
Well, how long do you want that period to be, though? Do you want it to be 9 to 12 months, like it would take if you wanted to do it the way that it's been other companies recommended getting done?
Yeah, it's probably tough to get that process started before you close.
Yeah,
so
you can't.
It may be that longer time. I still think that's doable. I did that for a while, but
I feel like 3 months is a reasonable amount of time to do that for. I think any longer than that, it's really hard to justify.
Yeah. The insurances that send to patients make that very difficult, that kind of setup. The ones that don't, it's not too difficult to get around it. I do see both sides. And I see the approach to get it just as quick as you can and maybe look to renegotiate in 2 years. 2 schools.
But I think the one thing is here, there was no thought at all.
No. I would never handle it like this.
Yeah.
Definitely not. I would never advise this.
No matter what decision you make, let's make it one that we've thought about. And we've decided on something versus just kind of letting something happen to you.
And this is a classic case of his ultimate vision not matching what he did when he started this practice. Like, he didn't have a super solid, I want a group practice, I want to blow down the doors to expand into this 8-op, 10-op practice with associates. It was more aligned with the track you said, like 4 days a week. I'm the solo doctor. I'm working out of 4 ops. I do high quality, dentistry materials, patient experience. Like, he doesn't want to go that route. So why is he just dropping all these insurances from the jump and losing hundreds of patients? It didn't match up.
Yeah. And I think like kind of, we talked about a little bit of your thoughts pre-intro, pre-outro. And, we talked about like PBN doesn't lie, you lie. Like, I kind of felt like I had to call him out on a few things, one of which was the patient experience. It's like, we talk about this amazing patient experience, but we don't really have much to like.
Yeah. Where's the social proof? Where are the reviews?
Yeah. Like where are we, I'm not doubting it, but it's saying like no one knows about it. So, but I did find that both part 1 and part 2 with this doc, more resistance than I remember. There was a doc, I forgot his fake name, but he gave me a fair amount of resistance too. But I think this is the most resistance I've had from a guest around something I'm telling them in their metrics.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like, it was not resistance about what to do. Like, he was very much encouraging, hey, like, beat me up, tell me what to do, like, give me an action plan. It was more like delusion of sorts of what's actually the case at the practice. Like, these numbers don't lie. Like, you lost 650 patients last year. Like, so yeah.
And then is this the part where I go through and I break that down? I go on a bi-month basis, like going inactive, and I show him where that came from because he didn't believe me on the number of patients that he was losing.
No, that's next time.
Okay. No, but it's this was good. Do you have any other thoughts for part 1?
I have a ton for part 2. My last couple things for part 1. What is the word the seller used to describe the front desk who was fired? What does it start with?
A C.
Oh, that's a little harsh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd be throwing that word around.
Yeah, I mean, that.
Jeez. Oh, okay. Moving on.
Yeah, it's censored. We censored it. But
no, and my last point, a small one, is I like how he made this shift from like, this is a job where no one can tell me what to do, to this, like, I'm actually growing a practice and there's something bigger here. Like, I think that was a cool mindset shift he had in himself that allowed that 20% growth he had even before coming on the interview.
And I think it's cool that, was this the episode we talked about the 20% growth? Or was that?
Yeah. Well, you alluded to it both times.
Okay. I think I read more about it next episode, but like, I think it was really, I got a lot of warm fuzzies when he was talking about how listening to our show gave him the drive and the motivation to like take ownership over his situation and like empower him to like really dedicate himself to growing his practice. I thought that made me feel really cool. And I was honored that, our show, did that for him in his life. So that was really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I just got chills right now thinking about that. Like,
that was really cool.
That's really exciting. And it shows the acumen in our audience. Like, I think it's, a big gratitude piece for me that when we work with clients who are listeners, like, they're so far advanced and we don't have to start at this like basic baseline of dentistry and how to grow practice. We're already like 4 steps ahead, and it's a much higher level conversation. It's so much more rewarding. And that's a testament to our audience, man. They are really advanced. And
I think that's part of the reason why Albert stuck out like a needle in a haystack was because, it was a stark contrast between the people, the guests we get on Practice Underwater, and we don't market Practice Underwater. Like, if we went on dental Facebook groups and said like, hey, you want to come on Practice Underwater? Like, we'd be getting a lot more Alberts and a lot less of these guys, a lot less Obis. And, we got this guy because like he listened, he wanted to be on our show that he's listened to for a long time, and therefore he's learned a lot from it. So we get a false perception of what is average in dentistry based on our audience. Thank goodness. Yeah, for sure. And part 2 is a doozy. One of my favorite single interviews I've ever heard. Really? Yeah. Super good. Cool. Well, guys, I mean, you got to listen to Matt's favorite interview ever coming up next week. Okay. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks for listening to another episode of Practice Underwater. We'll see you guys next week. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching with either Dr. George Hariri or Dr. Matt Garino, our contact emails are in the show notes. And if you're interested in being on Practice Underwater as a guest, where we could look at your practice anonymously, you can go ahead and contact the email in the show notes and follow those directions to get on the show. Thanks, and we'll see you guys next week on Practice Underwater.